There are days when transformation arrives like thunder, loud, undeniable, impossible to ignore. But April 10th is different. This isn't the energy of sudden awakening. It's the quiet current that comes after, when the soul begins to absorb what has already been revealed. Today carries the subtle rhythm of integration. You may not feel dramatic shifts, but you'll sense something softer, the urge to slow down, the impulse to breathe more consciously, the awareness that your energy is finding its balance. This is not a day to force change. It's a day to let change take root. The universe isn't calling you to leap forward, it's asking you to align. To let what you've recently awakened to begin shaping your choices, your pace, your presence. If your body feels slower, your spirit more contemplative, don't resist. You are not falling behind. You are deepening. You are letting your inner transformation settle into your nervous system, your thoughts, your everyday movements. The most meaningful shifts don't always come with noise. Sometimes, they arrive in the quiet moments, when we stop striving and start listening to what already lives within us. And if this quiet shift is something you've already begun to feel, if something in you resonates with the energy of today, take a moment to type 444 in the comments. Not for luck, but as a gentle signal that you're anchoring into alignment. You can also share this message with someone who may need this kind of softness right now. Because not every breakthrough comes with fire, some arrive with stillness. Once a truth has been revealed to the soul, it doesn't simply disappear. It settles, it lingers, it hums quietly beneath your skin, reshaping your reality from the inside out. And that's what this moment is about, not the revelation itself, but what you do with it now that it's here. April 10th doesn't arrive with the blaze of new insight. It arrives with a softer but no less powerful invitation, to live in alignment with what you already know. To embody what was once only understood. This is no longer the season of simply receiving signs. This is the season of becoming one. You might not feel like anything dramatic is happening today, but watch closely. The signs are not above you, they are within you now. You may find that your tone of voice shifts. You speak more calmly, more thoughtfully. You may notice your body making decisions before your mind catches up, stepping away from a conversation, canceling a commitment, turning inward when you would have once pushed through. These aren't choices made from fear or resistance. They're choices made from alignment, instinctive movements rooted in deeper awareness. Your outer rhythm is changing because your inner compass has recalibrated. You're not performing your awakening anymore. You're living it. And the shift doesn't have to be loud to be real. Sometimes it shows up in the way you no longer tolerate certain energies. The way your body says no before your mouth even speaks. The way you recognize dissonance in a space you used to belong to, and simply leave without guilt. You may not even realize how far you've come until you catch yourself making different choices, moving with more ease, more truth. The gap between your soul and your actions is narrowing. The delay between knowing and becoming is dissolving. This is embodiment. And with embodiment comes something most don't expect, softness. A different kind of softness than before, not the softness of compliance or fragility, but a strength-infused gentleness that only arises once the war within has begun to quiet. You may feel it return like an old friend, the tenderness, the openness, the willingness to feel again, but this time, it's anchored. You're no longer soft because you're unsure. You're soft because you're strong enough to let your guard down. The world taught you that strength meant holding it all together, building walls, controlling outcomes. But this softness teaches a different kind of strength. It shows up in the way you can sit with discomfort without fleeing. The way you can offer compassion without losing yourself. The way you can feel pain, love, uncertainty, and still remain whole. That is the kind of softness that heals timelines. That is the softness that breaks generational patterns without shouting. You may notice old emotions rising, not to overwhelm you, but to be released through a new filter. You no longer carry them the same way. What once stirred anger may now invite understanding. What once caused panic now meets presence. You might find yourself holding space for others differently too, more intuitively, with less need to fix or explain. You hear more than just their words. You feel what's beneath them. And you know when to offer your energy, and when to protect it. This new emotional landscape is not about being passive. It's about being deeply attuned. You are becoming the kind of person who can move through the world with an open heart and a grounded presence, someone who can walk through uncertainty with grace, someone who no longer hides behind hardness to feel safe. Your boundaries are no longer reactions. They are rooted. Quiet. Undeniable. Even the way you remember your past begins to shift. You may find yourself thinking about people who once hurt you, not with bitterness, but with neutrality, or even compassion. Not because you're forgetting what happened, but because you've reclaimed your power. Their choices no longer live in your body. The emotional charge begins to fade, and in its place comes wisdom. You see now how every chapter shaped you. You're not carrying pain. You're carrying perspective. And that perspective leads to something even more subtle, even more miraculous. Your nervous system begins to regulate itself differently. You feel less urgency. Less panic. Less need to prove. There's more room to breathe. To notice. To simply exist. And in that stillness, there's peace, not the performative kind, but the kind that seeps into your bones, the kind that says, I'm here. I'm safe. I don't have to fight to be whole anymore. Others might sense the shift in you. Some will be drawn to your light without knowing why. Others may feel uncomfortable as your energy no longer validates their illusions. That's okay. Let them come. Let them go. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to live honestly with yourself. And the people meant for this version of you, the embodied, emotionally present, soul-aligned you, will find you. They're already on their way. You've entered the space between the realization and the ripple effect, the part where inner work becomes outer transformation. And even if the world hasn't caught up to your shift yet, it will. Because you're already living differently. You're walking differently. You're choosing differently. Not to impress. Not to prove. But because this is simply who you are now. And that, in itself, is sacred. As the outer world keeps spinning with its usual noise and momentum, something in you begins to notice that you're no longer moving at the same speed. Time feels different now. The urgency that once drove your days doesn't hold the same weight. You may find yourself looking at your schedule and suddenly feeling the need to clear space. You might delay things, cancel plans, reschedule conversations, not because you're avoiding life, but because your internal rhythm has changed. It's slower now. Quieter. More rooted in presence than performance. And at first, this shift might feel disorienting. You may wonder if you're being lazy, unfocused, or falling behind. But what's really happening is something sacred. Your soul is catching up to your spirit. You've recently received powerful downloads, emotional realizations, spiritual clarity, subtle energetic shifts that crack something open inside you. But now, those awakenings need space. They need stillness to settle. Just like the earth rests after an earthquake, your inner being is finding new ground to stand on. So if life feels like it's slowing down, let it. If your body craves rest, give it. If your calendar clears unexpectedly or the world seems less demanding, trust that this is not a step back, it's divine recalibration. Your nervous system is integrating new frequencies. Your heart is learning to move differently. The systems that once kept you running on adrenaline are being softened, rewired, brought back into balance. This isn't stagnation. This is spiritual recovery. Soul-level restructuring. And if you allow yourself to surrender to the slower pace, you may find that something unexpected begins to surface, a kind of peace that doesn't come from productivity, but from alignment. You begin to realize that what you used to call doing nothing was actually the most essential part of your becoming. That in the stillness, you are not disappearing, you are reappearing, as your truest self. And as the noise quiets around you, something extraordinary happens within, your intuition begins to speak louder. Not through mysticism or drama, but in the simplest of ways. You wake up and know you need to change your route. You hear a voice in your spirit telling you to wait before answering that message. You feel a subtle tightness in your chest when you're about to agree to something that doesn't serve you. You don't always have the logic to back it up. But you know. You just know. That knowing, quiet, subtle, undeniable, isn't new. It's always been there. But now, the static has cleared. The channel is clean. Your inner compass, long muffled by fear and noise, is becoming your primary navigation system. And this guidance doesn't just show up in meditation or dreams anymore. It lives in the body. In the breath. In the pause before speaking. In the way your energy contracts around falsehood and expands around truth. You are no longer waiting for cosmic signs in the sky, you're learning to recognize the sacred language written directly into your senses. You may find yourself declining invitations that don't resonate, even if they seem harmless on the surface. You might walk into a room and immediately feel your body tighten, without explanation. Or feel drawn towards someone for no apparent reason, sensing something meaningful without needing to name it. These are not random. These are signals. And the more you follow them, the more you realize that life begins to unfold differently, not faster, but clearer. Not easier, but more authentic. Because intuition isn't here to make your life convenient. It's here to make your life real. It doesn't promise you will always be comfortable, but it ensures you will always be in alignment, if you're willing to listen. And sometimes, that listening means going against what others expect, walking away from what once felt safe, or saying no without offering an explanation. Not everyone will understand. But your soul will thank you. And this is the real initiation, learning to act on what you feel before the world validates it. Trusting the inner pull even when the path isn't clear. Saying yes to what your body relaxes into, even if your mind still has questions. You are moving from intellect to embodiment, from logic to truth, from fear-based reaction to soul-based choice. And the more you practice this way of living, the stronger your intuitive signals become. What began as a whisper turns into an inner voice that doesn't need to shout. What began as guesswork becomes instinct. You stop asking for signs, and start realizing you are the sign. You stop waiting for permission, and start remembering you were never meant to live by someone else's map. This is your recalibration. This is your realignment. This is the sacred slowness where old timelines dissolve and new ones begin, not through force, but through resonance. Every pause, every pullback, every internal redirection is not a distraction from your path, it is the path. And in this space, you begin to trust again, not just in the universe, but in yourself. You remember that stillness is not emptiness. It's preparation. And intuition is not just a gift, it's the language your soul has always spoken. As you continue to slow down and align with your own inner rhythm, you may begin to feel something else stirring, quiet at first, but unmistakable. Certain spaces you used to move through with ease now feel heavier, harder to enter, harder to stay in. Certain people you once shared laughter and connection with may suddenly feel distant, not in words or actions, but in energy. Something is different. And that difference isn't necessarily outside of you. It's inside. This is what happens when your frequency begins to rise. Your energy field, the aura around your body, the spiritual membrane that once stretched to accommodate what was familiar, starts to refine itself. It becomes more honest. More discerning. And as it does, it can no longer tolerate what it once absorbed unconsciously. The shedding doesn't begin with anger or judgment. It begins with quiet discomfort. A subtle knowing that what once felt aligned, simply doesn't anymore. You may walk into a room and feel your whole body tighten without any obvious reason. You may listen to someone speak and feel the words bouncing off your heart instead of landing. You may revisit a place that once brought you comfort, and now it feels foreign, like you're a guest in a former version of yourself. That's not coldness. That's not arrogance. That's energetic dissonance. And it's not a problem, it's a sign. When your soul steps into a new frequency, your aura starts shedding everything that doesn't resonate with the vibration of where you're going. This shedding is not about rejection. It's about refinement. You're not pushing people away, you're allowing your field to become more true. And in that process, some connections will naturally dissolve. Some invitations will no longer feel appealing. Some environments will start to feel like costumes you've outgrown. This may be confusing at first, especially if you still care deeply about the people or spaces you're shifting away from. You may feel guilt. You may wonder if you're being too sensitive, too withdrawn, too detached. But your soul knows the truth, you're not withdrawing, you're evolving. You're not closing your heart, you're realigning your field. You're not leaving people behind, you're clearing space for the ones who are meant to meet you where you are now. Sometimes, the shedding happens softly, people naturally fade, paths diverge, the calls stop coming. Other times, it feels abrupt, misunderstandings, sudden friction, emotional distance you didn't expect. Either way, the invitation is the same, release with grace. You don't need to make someone wrong in order to move on. You don't need a dramatic ending to honor the closing of a season. You only need to listen to what your energy is telling you. And right now, your energy is asking for resonance. For depth. For purity. You no longer have the bandwidth to maintain what drains you or shrink yourself to stay included. The price is too high. Your frequency too precious. And the journey ahead too sacred. You might feel lonely for a little while, this is normal. When the old energy leaves, and the new has not yet fully arrived, there is a space in between. A pause between identities. A soft silence where you are learning how to be with yourself in a deeper way than ever before. That space is holy. It is not punishment. It is preparation. Because what's coming next is not shallow connection. It's soul connection. Not surface-level approval, but spiritual resonance. The people who are meant for your next chapter will not need to be convinced, explained, or adjusted for. They will recognize you by your frequency, not by your personality. And you will recognize them too, not by what they say, but by what you feel when you are with them. Safety. Expansion. Peace. No masks. No striving. Just mutual alignment. So trust the discomfort. Honor the shift. Let your aura do the sorting. You are not losing people. You are making space. And the ones who are meant to walk with you now, through this deeper, more awake version of you, will not miss their moment. They're not late. They're being drawn to your light as it clarifies. And you? You're just beginning to see how powerful it is to no longer compromise who you are, just to belong to what you've outgrown. As the energies around you continue to shift, you may begin to feel that the days ahead, especially the middle stretch of April, are not meant for external acceleration, but for internal refinement. What April initiated in its opening days is not meant to be rushed toward completion. Instead, it's designed to unfold layer by layer, giving you the time and space to observe what's still embedded within you that no longer belongs. This is the phase where the deeper work begins, not dramatic, but precise. Not chaotic, but intimate. From this point forward, the universe begins inviting you to look inward with greater clarity, greater softness, and greater honesty. Old habits you thought you'd already moved past may quietly resurface, not to test you, but to show you what's still being held beneath the surface. Emotional patterns may return in subtler form. An old fear may echo in your mind, not as an enemy, but as a signal that something is finally ready to be seen, understood, and let go of. You might feel pulled towards solitude again, not because you're avoiding life, but because your inner world is asking for your full attention. During this middle stretch of the month, you are entering a refining phase, a spiritual clearing where what has been stored in the subconscious, beliefs you inherited but never questioned, coping mechanisms disguised as personality, dreams that were once suppressed, begins to rise up, gently but insistently, asking to be re-examined. And it's not about judgment. This isn't about tearing yourself apart or fixing what's broken. It's about bringing light into the deeper corners of your being. The version of you that's emerging needs space. Clean space. Clear energy. A new inner atmosphere that no longer echoes with the limitations of the past. So one by one, these layers begin to lift. You may feel more emotionally raw, more contemplative, more introspective. Let that happen. You are not unraveling. You are releasing. This part of the journey requires compassion. Slowness. A willingness to notice without rushing to solve. You may find yourself moving more intuitively, drawn to spend more time in nature, journaling, revisiting old memories, not to dwell, but to finally clear. Even your body may begin communicating differently. Certain foods, environments, or conversations may feel heavier. That's because you're tuning in now, not just spiritually, but somatically. The body holds what the mind forgets, and in this refining period, even your cells are remembering what they're ready to let go of. There's no need to force this process. It will unfold in perfect timing. A random conversation may trigger a childhood memory. A dream may show you a symbol you haven't thought of in years. A sudden wave of emotion may rise and pass through you in minutes. Let it all come. Let it all flow. These are not distractions. These are doorways. What's happening now is not just surface clearing, it's deep energetic housekeeping. And it's preparing you for something. The more you honor this phase, the more stable you'll feel as the next wave of acceleration arrives near the end of the month and into early May. This period is not passive, it is preparatory. You are being rooted so you can rise stronger. You are being emptied so you can be filled in new ways. You are being retuned, recalibrated, reset, not because something is wrong with you, but because something higher is beginning to live through you. This refining process is sacred. And even though the outside world may not see it happening, you feel it. You feel it in your body, your breath, your resistance, your dreams. You feel it in the way old questions rise up, and new ones begin to form. You feel it in the gentle burn of release and the strange sense of peace that follows. This is what real transformation looks like. Not always loud. Not always visible. But always undeniable. As this refining phase deepens, the language of your soul begins to emerge more clearly than ever before. Not through logic. Not through external signs. But through the quiet, mysterious terrain of dreams, sensations, symbols, and subtle feeling. In the coming days, especially after April 10th, don't be surprised if your dreams become more vivid, more layered, more emotionally resonant than usual. What may appear at first as random images, strange rooms, repeating animals, messages scribbled in unfamiliar handwriting, are not random at all. They are fragments of a deeper conversation your soul has been trying to have with you, one that bypasses language and goes straight to the center of your knowing. The dream space, in this time, becomes more than rest. It becomes a realm of revelation. The veil between your conscious awareness and your higher guidance is thinner now. Your intuition speaks while your mind sleeps. And what it speaks may not always make sense in the morning, but it will linger. The mood of the dream. The feeling in your body upon waking. The sudden clarity that arrives midday, tracing back to something unexplainable from the night before. This is the language of the soul. It does not follow rules. But it always speaks truth. Some symbols may begin repeating, animals, numbers, landscapes. You might hear a certain word echoed in different conversations, in books, or scrolling through content you didn't plan to see. You might start sensing meaning in the silence, in what people don't say, or in the emptiness of a space that used to feel full. This is not your imagination. It's intuition at full volume. Not loud, but unmistakable. The universe isn't only speaking to you, it's now speaking through your energetic field. And your task is no longer to analyze it, but to receive it. Even your physical senses might begin communicating differently. You might catch a scent that instantly reminds you of someone long gone, or a time in your life you haven't thought about in years. You might hear a phrase in a song and feel tears rise for no reason. You might feel a tingling in your hands when you enter a particular room, or a wave of sadness just before someone calls to share news. These are not random glitches in your nervous system. These are sacred transmissions moving through the pathways your soul understands. We often expect the divine to speak in big ways, in visions, voices, undeniable signs. But in reality, Spirit speaks most often in the space between. In the flicker of insight that passes across your awareness. In the moment you almost ignore. In the message you feel before it arrives. And this is why, during this season, you are being asked to slow down, not just in movement, but in perception. To notice what you would have overlooked just weeks ago. Because now, the symbols are not vague. They are specific. They are part of your private map, drawn in the invisible ink of your spirit's language. And when you follow them, piece by piece, they begin to lead you home. There's something sacred about learning to trust these messages, not because they're logical, but because they feel unmistakably real. Your body knows them. Your dreams remember them. Your intuition rises in their presence like a tuning fork meeting its pitch. This is you, remembering how to read energy. How to interpret the signs that don't come from the outside world, but from the quiet, shimmering knowing that lives inside your heart. And as this language becomes more familiar, you may find that your choices begin to change, gently, but decisively. You start navigating from a place of deeper trust. You no longer override your gut. You no longer delay what you know. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't feel aligned, and instead, you start living in a way that feels congruent, clean, light, resonant. Not for approval, but because your soul simply won't tolerate misalignment anymore. And this brings us here, to this moment. April 10th. It doesn't ask for a dramatic gesture or a bold reinvention. It asks for honesty. For simplicity. For soft, consistent truth. This is not the kind of awakening that arrives like lightning. This is the kind that slips in quietly, like the slow, certain return of spring after a long, interior winter. It doesn't need to announce itself. You simply wake up one morning and realize, you're not reacting the way you used to. You're not shrinking into who you were. You're not pretending anymore. Something within you has shifted. And it's real. This is a moment to trust the gentle unfolding. Not everything needs to be rebuilt at once. Not every answer needs to arrive today. What matters now is the quality of your presence, the way you walk, breathe, listen, respond. You're being given permission to live softer, slower, more intentionally. To choose what nourishes your nervous system. To say no to what pulls you out of alignment. To spend time with people who make your spirit exhale, not contract. The rest of April will continue to unfold like this, slowly, layer by layer. There will be moments of clarity, moments of emotion, moments where you wonder if you're moving fast enough. But if you listen closely, your soul will remind you, you're not here to rush. You're here to become. And becoming doesn't happen through force. It happens through attunement. Through honoring what you feel. Through returning, over and over again, to the quiet knowing that you are already on time. So if this resonates, if you're feeling this grounded clarity begin to take root in you, leave a 444 in the comments below. Let that number be a quiet signal to the universe, to yourself, and to anyone else reading, that you're anchoring into this frequency. That you've chosen presence over pressure. Truth over noise. Alignment over appearance. And if someone you love is going through this soft shift of their own, if they've been withdrawing, questioning, slowing down, or shedding what no longer fits, send this to them. They don't need to explain themselves. But it may help them to know they're not alone. Because we all move through this doorway differently. Some run. Some crawl. Some don't even realize they've crossed it until days later, when everything starts to feel lighter. But no matter how you enter this new phase, one thing remains true: you are not behind. You are right on time. And the unfolding has already begun.